We have a new COVID vaccine, the monovalent vaccine, which is targeted at some of the Omicron variants that are floating around these days. And with any new vaccine rollout, sometimes there are a few hiccups. And so we at Northwest News Radio have been hearing that for the children's doses, that there's might not be as much supply. There might be some issues with them, whatever those may be. So we wanted to reach out to an expert, and we have the perfect expert for that, Libby Page, who is the immunization program manager for Seattle King County Public Health. And of course, Libby, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. It is greatly appreciated. Let me ask you first, how would you say that rollout is going for King County?
Hi, thanks for having me, Ryan. I think that, to be honest, the new 2023-2024 COVID vaccine rollout has been a bit bumpy, as I'm sure that many of your listeners are aware. And we share your frustration. I think many of us didn't anticipate that there would be delays in distributing the newly authorized vaccine. So we are hearing from our state and federal partners that the rollout's rocky for a few reasons. One of them being that there is limited vaccine supply from the manufacturers, as well as supply chain constraints from the companies that distribute those vaccines to healthcare providers across the country. So both of those things are contributing to the significant delays we're seeing. And that's not just for the childhood and pediatric COVID vaccines. This is for all COVID vaccines that are recommended across the lifespan.
Okay, so the reason this issue came up today is because there is quite a bit of talk about issues specifically with the childhood doses. And I know one of our own people said, they made an appointment for their 10-year-old son to get it, and then got there and were told that it was not available. So what's going on specifically with the childhood doses?
It's really the same thing. The federal government it actually distributes the childhood vaccines through the Vaccines for Children program. And in Washington State, we're fortunate that it's a universal state in which really means that the vaccines are purchased for all children, regardless of insurance status. So healthcare providers who are enrolled in that program order the doses through the State Department of Health. However, the allocations to our state have been so small that our state colleagues have not been able to approve all the orders that have been requested by the pediatric providers. And in fact, we learned last week that they actually had to shut off ordering for a time because there just wasn't enough supply to meet the demand.
Okay, so that means for parents then, Libby, that they're going to have to be patient, aren't they, while they're trying to get their kids lined up for these shots?
Yeah, that's really the takeaway for all of us. I've just been talking with my family members, my elderly parents, and everyone's really in the same boat. The few vaccine appointments that are available at clinics and pharmacies are filling up very quickly. At the same time, there's a bit of unpredictability in when they anticipate receiving their supplies. So they'll open up appointments only to realize that they didn't get the shipment they expected when they expected it and have to cancel those appointments. So that's what we're seeing at pediatric offices as well as clinics and pharmacies serving adults.
Now, the other thing our guy mentioned was that somebody had told him about a possible recall of some of these doses. Is that actually a thing, or is that somebody making a mistake in saying that? What do you know?
That, to my knowledge, is not accurate. We haven't heard of any recalls. It's more of a production and a supply chain issue.
Okay. With that in mind, since I've got you, how are we doing in terms of the other winter virus shots, flu, and then for those who are eligible or in the right age groups, RSV? Are we doing pretty well with uptake?
Yeah, it's a little early to tell how well uptake is going. We know that flu vaccine appointments are readily available, and there haven't been the same issues, primarily because the vaccine was distributed last month or even in late August for flu vaccines. So there's been ample time to get product into clinics and pharmacies. And in fact, that's the one shot I've been able to I've been able to get this fall. The RSV vaccine was recently authorized for older adults, and so that is also still making its way to clinics and pharmacies. And the other thing I think that's important to point out with both the COVID and RSV vaccines, actually all vaccines, is that as they move to the commercial market, COVID vaccines in particular moved from being a federally purchased vaccine program to the commercial market as we do with other vaccines. That means that people really need to be careful about where they're getting their shots. And there should not be an out-of-pocket cost if you get it at an in-network provider, if you have insurance. And for those who are uninsured, they are able to get free COVID vaccines at no cost thanks to the Bridge Access Program, which is a federal program that provides free COVID vaccines to and underinsured adults. But I just want to caution people we really recommend calling your clinic, your healthcare provider, or pharmacy, one, to make sure that they have the vaccine, and two, to make sure that they're in network and that you won't be charged an out-of-pocket fee.
That's another thing, and you might not be able to address this, and that's okay. But one of the other pieces, and I'm glad you brought up insurance, is we're hearing pediatricians when it comes to the kids' shots saying that they are having issues getting reimbursed for that. But it sounds like the way you mentioned Washington is a universal state, that might not be an issue here.
That's correct. We're very grateful, and it's a wonderful system that few states in the country have, so that healthcare providers don't need to manage two separate supplies of purchased childhood vaccines for insured patients and Vaccines for Children program vaccine for uninsured patients. So they only have to deal with one supply, and all ordered through the State Department of Health.
That is wonderful. Libby, while I have you, when it comes to vaccinations this time of year, are there any important messages you need us to get out there?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. I think we really want to encourage everyone to get their flu shot, and as appointments become more available in the coming weeks, to get their COVID, and if you're eligible, RSV vaccines. I've recommended this to all of my family members who are especially over the age of 60, my parents, aunts, and uncles, to seek those shots out as soon as possible. And we recognize too that people have a lot of fatigue around vaccine, and it's not really on top of a lot of folks' mind, but this is really the perfect time, and they're the best protection against severe disease, especially respiratory virus diseases this season. And they also offer long-term protection from complications from all of these diseases.
Important to know. And full disclosure, I'm actually going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, getting my flu shot a little later than normal because I have a doctor's appointment on October 23rd. And so I'm hoping that I can get the flu shot and the new updated COVID shot at the same time. And I know we're sort of in flu shot season right now. So again, I'm a little behind on that one, but they are most definitely important to get. And I'm doing it, so I personally recommend it. But one other thing, while I have you too, Libby, that I want to throw in there, just because I was also today going over a new survey from the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation of 21 different countries, including the US, and it finds confidence in all vaccines continues to get lower over time. Is that something we're seeing here in King County too? Like, what can you say about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that we're very concerned about. At the same time, I'm hopeful that our friends and neighbors and loved ones in King County and in Washington State are very pro-vaccine in general. It's evidenced in the very high COVID vaccination rates, among the highest in the country and the earliest in the country to achieve 70% vaccine coverage. And so I am hopeful that we'll buck the trend. And at the same time, I think there's a lot of work that we need to do to instill trust and confidence in the safety and effectiveness of vaccines.
Yes, and that was one of the takeaways from the IHME survey too, is that messaging from trusted sources is incredibly important. Very good. Libby Page, the immunization program manager with Seattle King County Public Health. Really appreciate you joining us, Libby.
Thanks for having me.
As we talk about difficulties people are having getting the newest COVID vaccine, the monovalent booster that's updated for 2023, 2024, we wanted to check in with the main source here in Washington, and that is the Washington State Department of Health. And privileged to be joined by Heather Drummond, who is the Department of Health's COVID-19 vaccine director. Now, Heather, since it seems like we're hearing parents are struggling to get shots and get appointments for their kids. What's going on here in Washington State when it comes to like the supply we're getting for the kids' dose?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about this really important topic. As folks may know, COVID-19 vaccine has started arriving in Washington State, and folks across the state are starting to receive the updated COVID-19 vaccine. However, as you know, there currently is limited vaccine availability from manufacturers, and we nationally are experiencing supply chain constraints during this vaccine rollout. Again, these challenges are being experienced here in Washington and being experienced across the country as they really ramp up supply. And as a result, COVID-19 vaccine demand currently exceeds available supply. So we are working hard to equitably distribute the limited COVID-19 vaccine we currently have available. And we are receiving more COVID-19 vaccine each week. So we expect supply to right size in the next couple weeks and encourage patients as families try and find the COVID-19 vaccine over those next couple weeks.
So I just want to make sure I heard you right. We're thinking that this will sort of even itself out within a couple of weeks.
That is our understanding. Yes, we've heard from manufacturers that within approximately a month of FDA approval, they expect the supply chain to really be at capacity, which puts us at October 12th. So really hoping in the next couple weeks and definitely by the end of the month that anyone who is seeking a COVID-19 vaccine can find one across the state.
And since I have my doctor's appointment on the 23rd, I got fingers crossed for that.
Feels
Now,
like a good time.
right? I know. Well, until I get both the COVID and flu shot at the same time, and I sit under my heavy, fuzzy leopard print blanket, shivering like a fool because COVID in the left and flu in the right.
That's why we have two arms, right?
Yeah, exactly. Two arms and one brain that doesn't always think these things through. But it's better to get, I feel it's better to get them knocked out. And I've always said, if I'm feeling that within 24 hours after the shots, that means the shots are working. So, because it's producing an immune response. So that's an important thing. So I just want to confirm too, it's not just the kids' doses. We're seeing this across the board, correct?
Correct. Yep. We are seeing some limited supply across the board for kids doses and adult doses. It's not just happening for our state programs like our adult vaccine program and childhood vaccine program. We're seeing it with commercial product as well, as providers are ordering that. So it's just a challenging time for a short while as manufacturers get up to speed.
And I also just want to confirm too, because you had used the term commercial product, providers are ordering directly in addition to what the state orders. It's not like the previously where the state ordered all of them and is distributing them, correct?
Correct. Yes. So as COVID-19 vaccines have transitioned to more standard practice, the expectation is providers will get commercial vaccine that is used for folks who have insurance, and then they are reimbursed by that insurance.
Well, since you brought up insurance, I am hearing too the pediatricians in other states are having a problem getting reimbursed. But we don't have that problem here in Washington because it's universal for kids, right?
That is the intention. And yes, we are lucky in many regards in Washington state as a universal state for immunization access. Um, Different than some vaccines as they are rolled out, insurance companies are required to provide coverage of COVID-19 vaccines, with very few exceptions of plans that have been sort of grandfathered in and may charge a copay or co-administration. As you mentioned, within Washington state, our childhood vaccine program provides vaccines to children under age 19 at no cost. We are hearing that, you know, there similarly are some delays, or it may take some time for the mechanics of insurance reimbursement, including ensuring billing codes are in our health record system, et cetera, to be integrated. But we expect those components to be set again in the coming weeks. And any provider who is experiencing challenges with billing insurance for COVID-19 vaccines, we recommend having them contact the health plan directly. They can let us know as well. We can work with our colleagues at the Office of Insurance Commissioner to ensure that we're all doing the right thing.
Okay, very good. Now, another question I have to ask, and I know you were prepared for it. One of our people who was struggling to get an appointment for his 10-year-old son at one point was told by one of the providers that there might have been a recall on a batch of the doses. But he was convinced that that wasn't necessarily a real thing, that that was something somebody said. Is it a real thing, or what's happening?
Thanks, Ryan. And I'm glad you're bringing it up. There is a lot of confusion out there right now, and we are doing everything we can to help folks understand. Everyone ages 6 months and higher is eligible for an updated 2023-2024 COVID-19 vaccine. We're working with providers to ensure that messaging is out there. I think in the instance that you mentioned, Ryan, of your friend, as the updated 2023-2024 COVID-19 vaccine products were approved or authorized by the FDA in early September, correspondingly, the previous COVID-19 bivalent products or boosters were deauthorized and thus no longer available for administration. So I think that's the instance where they had COVID-19 vaccine. They had those bivalent Pfizer and Moderna products, which the authorization was revoked as these new vaccines came available, which are targeting the XBB.1.5 variant, and so have demonstrated a better immune response for those variants that are circulating now. So, and there was a few weeks where providers didn't have COVID-19 vaccines because the previous ones were deauthorized. The new ones were still arriving in offices across the state. So I think that's likely the challenge that your friend experienced.
Certainly a possibility. I was convinced I was going to hear that they were mislabeled or something, that otherwise they were fine, but somebody slapped the wrong labels on it, because that does happen occasionally. But I'm glad to hear it was just a matter of the timing between the approval and deauthorization. So you also mentioned that you wanted to get that message out. I think the best place to wrap that up is any other messages that you want to get out there for parents, families, anyone else who's ready to get their COVID shot.
Thank you, Ryan. Yes, as I mentioned, updated COVID-19 vaccines for 2023-2024 have been recommended to anyone ages 6 months and older. And this is based on data that's demonstrating its continued effectiveness against severe COVID-19 disease, including hospitalization and death. We encourage all families to get themselves and their children vaccinated for COVID-19 this fall, just like getting an annual flu shot. We acknowledge that currently supply may be limited for the next few weeks, and expect more widespread availability later this month and into November.
All right, very good. Heather Drummond, the State Department of Health's COVID-19 vaccine director. Heather, appreciate you taking some time for us.
Thank you.